Greetings to you all televiewers watching us from the nooks and crannies of Cameroon. It is a pleasure having you for another edition of Viewpoint on DBS television. Given that we are within the National Week of Bilingualism in Cameroon, that is the 16th edition, we are having as a guest tonight the Regional Pedagogic Inspector Bacham Gideon, and we'll be talking issues related to bilingualism in Cameroon. Good evening to you, Bacham, and thank you very much for coming.
Thank you very much, Vanessa. Good evening, Venatius, and thanks DBS for opening its doors to the Regional Pedagogic Inspectorate in charge of the promotion of bilingualism for the littoral region. For the littoral region. Thank you very much for coming. It's not always easy having the people in this specific sector. Mange Venatius, good evening and welcome.
Good evening, Vanessa. Good evening to our viewers, and good evening to Mr. Bacham for taking time off his tight schedule to be part of us this evening. Vanessa, permit me greet the students who are struggling to, make a difference from our elder brothers and sisters who, have been sit tight on their own side. This issue of bilingualism, as we are talking of the week, we need some effort, and like the government is already doing. Let it be from the papers to practical life, so that we don't have people saying in Cameroon that c'est le Cameroun qui est bilingue and not Cameroonians.
Okay, Mange Venatius. But I would just like to ask Gideon, is it possible for me to greet somebody in my mother tongue? Is that bilingualism? If I should greet somebody in the mother tongue?
Well, somehow yes, but within the context of what is practiced in Cameroon at the official level, I think that will be wrong.
That would be wrong.
Yes, very wrong. Because what is enshrined in the Constitution is English and French as the two official languages.
As the two official languages. Thank you very much. I wanted to make that clear because a lot of people at times they get confused when we talk of bilingualism. Let us have the first part of the show. If you are just tuning in, you're watching Viewpoint on DBS television. In the first question is bilingualism in Cameroon practical. Gideon, I begin with you.
Yes, Vanessa, I think I can affirm without mincing words that
yes,
bilingualism in Cameroon is
practical.
Practical.
Mange Venatius?
I was thinking the other way around. That it is not.
It is not, no. And in the second question, are there ways to improve the practice of bilingualism in Cameroon, Mange Venatius?
Yes, there are.
There are ways, yes. Gideon?
Yes, exactly.
Yes, there are. Coming up next, let us take a second part of the show. Is bilingualism in Cameroon practical? That is the first question in today's edition. But before we get into that, it is very important for us to know what is bilingualism and how it is an educational policy in Cameroon. The regional inspector, pedagogic inspector of the littoral region. So, Mr. Gideon, what is bilingualism all about and how practical it is as far as the educational aspect is concerned?
Thank you, Vanessa. When we talk of bilingualism, bi means two. So when we talk of bilingualism, it refers to the practice of the two official languages, namely English and French. Even though, let's be honest, French dominates a little bit because of the numerical strength of those who have this language as their language of instruction. But when we talk of bilingualism in its official, from it purely official aspect, we are referring to the practice of English and French in Cameroon. And it is an educational policy because before going to the speaking of the languages, don't forget that these are the languages of instruction. That is the learning language and the working tools, the learning languages for the learners. And at a national level, they are the languages that administration use uses not for administrative purposes. So, as an educational policy, the practice of English and French, that one is not even supposed to, enjoy any question mark. To me, it was not even supposed to come in a question form, because it is what is there. There's no other way. The practice of the other, or the learning of the other languages, German, Spanish, Arab, whatsoever, those ones are just taught as a subject. But when we talk of the languages used in Cameroon as an official policy, we are referring to English and French.
And therefore an educational policy. And looking at this 16th edition, the theme talks about resilient, inclusive and quality education. So how relevant is this theme within a context at a specific moment?
Thank you very much for that question. Very, very relevant. A tool, bilingualism, a tool for the resilient, qualitative and inclusive education. Do not forget that education is taking place now within a specific context, health context, with the corona pandemic still having its ravaging effects around the corners. So, when we talk of education being resilient, what does that mean, or what does that imply? It simply means that education has to continue despite all the adverse effects. So, resilient means it should withstand all the difficult conditions imposed by the health problems. So resilient is to stand or stay steadfast, and learning should continue. But taking into consideration the fact that, there are measures which should be observed in order to fight against that, or to limit the spread of the disease. That is why we say education has to be resilient. So the resilience is referring to the fact that it has to continue at all costs, the health hazard notwithstanding, but at the same time taking measures to curb it or eradicate with time. Then, qualitative. It is not because there's a particular context imposed on us by circumstances that the quality should drop. We still strive for higher heights as far as education is concerned. That is why we talk of qualitative. Then, inclusive means we bring all actors on board and we put all hands on deck so that education should continue. That's why it is inclusive. Nobody is left out. Nobody is exonerated for whatsoever reason.
You talked of resilient education, and you just mentioned of the health situation. What of the security crisis that is going on in some parts of the regions of Cameroon?
Thank you very much. You taking me.
Does it mean that these children or students have been excluded?
No, not at all. Not at all. It may be interesting when you asked in one of your previous questions how relevant is bilingualism to education.
Sure.
You should understand, because even though this is not a program that is tilted towards politics, but let us not pretend that what is happening, especially in the northwest and the southwest, has as its root causes the failure in quotes by some people who are supposed to implement the bilingualism of Cameroon. So those students, they are not left out. That's why I said inclusive. Everybody has to be a major actor.
Thank you very much, Bacham Gideon, for that insight. Is bilingualism in Cameroon practical, among issues? In your opinion, you think that not at all, it is not practical?
Yes, I was thinking like Mr. Bacham said, when we talk about education in Cameroon, and we talk in relation, just to tie with the theme that he has given, with the coronavirus pandemic, the educational sector was one of those sectors that was touched, by the pandemic. Schools were closed, schools were shut down, but markets were not. Remember, markets were still going on, and things were still going on. We were not shut down, we were on duty. But the quality, like he said, of education ought to be maintained, even with the crisis. But then talking about, that's why I wanted to come from there to talk about the practice of bilingualism in Cameroon. To my opinion, it is we are still implementing bilingualism. We are not living bilingualism in Cameroon. That is why today, like a journalist, at times I get touched when I get out and I meet an official, a government official, When I ask him a question, sir, madam, please, can I have your view about this? And he tells me, my English is very poor. I don't speak English. That is untold for, that is uncalled for in Cameroon this time. Because this official is supposed to have gone to school. This official is supposed to have gone through normal education. And in this school, like he said, the language of instruction is the English and French, which means every educated Cameroonian should at least be able to sell across his point or his idea in English and in French. I am not saying that you should make a kind of lengthy speech, lengthy, discourses in English or in French. No. Ask me about something I wanted to. We are talking about bilingualism today with the regional inspector in charge of promotion of bilingualism. He should be able to say it because that is his field. That is what he is doing. And then if I ask him a question and then he tells me my English is very poor, there's something wrong.
Or that I can't speak.
No, I don't speak. Some even tell you openly, I don't speak English. Which to me, it should not be. Because I think that if the language of instruction in this country is in English and in French, it is not only for Francophones. I am sharing my experience because I am in this other part of the country. Back home, in my native Jakiri, when I was going to school too, I remember the teacher that we had who was teaching us French. He could come to class for 1 week when I've never said a word in French. It happens. And most of them, instead of teaching French in French, they teach French in English. And we end up not even getting the French. That is the same thing which I think even if you go up to the other side too, and you have to ask somebody to express himself in French too, he would likely tell you, I don't know French. So it's not like it is one-sided. No, it is something that we have to deploy, Cameroonians generally. We remain in our comfort zones. Very few take the courage, to dare into trying to learn the other language. Whereas I think if what we are doing now, the promotion of bilingualism, if it should take its effect, then take somebody from Douala here, take somebody from Balmayo, take somebody from Mora in the far north, through the person in Widekum, through the person in Jakiri, through the person in Furawa, he should be able at least to sell, to even communicate, simple communication in English. At least that shows that we are Cameroon. And that is one of the qualities that we have as the only country in Africa that practices the bilingualism, which is English and French. Two official languages that are English and French. Because some do have Swahili and English, Swahili and French, and all these East African countries, they do have. They are bilingual countries. But the country that practices bilingualism, which is English and French, is Cameroon, is Canada. So I think that if we could sell this, this pride that we have in Africa, we would be far gone than what people think that if I speak English, maybe I am bringing myself down, or if I speak French, maybe I'm being assimilated.
Thank you very much, Mange Benashus. Gideon, so you think it's practical? So give us now practical examples to highlight the fact that bilingualism is practical in Cameroon.
There are so many, and if I really have to dwell lengthily on it, I may exceed the time of your program, but I'll just give a few. They say charity begins at home, so let me begin from where I work. The Regional Pedagogic Inspectorate in charge of the promotion of bilingualism is manned by seasoned educationists, all bilingual. Is that your program is exclusively for English. Because for your information, I am a regional pedagogic inspector in charge of the promotion of bilingualism. French, not English.
Not English.
No, not English. Okay. Not English.
These are the Cameroonians.
Probably.
These are the Cameroonians that we would have.
Probably, if I were to go to a sister program, this is not the language I'll be speaking. Again, if we have to extend a bit, I think to the best of my knowledge, the overall boss of education within this region, the delegate himself, is perfectly bilingual. Most government ministers I know as journalists, you will tell me that you will choose the few exceptions maybe to capitalize on. But to the best of my knowledge, I think most of them, they are from Anglophone background or from Francophone background. They are bilingual. Don't take me to task for the few isolated cases. And just as he was saying, you know, those who have refused, if I were in a position, something needs to be done. Probably we cannot serve in the two languages where you are occupying a public office. To me, it's just normal that you should quit. Unfortunately, we are doing the promotion of bilingualism and not necessarily government policy concerning maybe appointments or whatsoever. Because as an institutionalized bilingualism, notably English, the practice of English and French, everybody is supposed to, you know, practice that language. I think from some years back till now, to the best of my knowledge, things are really changing, and everywhere where you go,
things are improving.
Things are improving, and it's practical.
And it's practical. To
the best of my knowledge.
That's it. That's your point of view. So how does the Inspectorate of Bilingualism promote the concept? How do you do that?
So many things. The Inspectorate in charge of the promotion of bilingualism does so many things. Let me just, you know, give a few of them. First of all, they follow up teachers to make sure that they implement the bilingualism in their schools. The teachers of you know, English to Francophones, in our jargon we call it Anglais, or French to Anglophones. And then they follow up, you know, school heads, that heads of institutions, to make sure that they promote what we call in our jargon the bilingual game. That is, when a teacher teaches, let's assume that I was in class here teaching. Okay, if it's a lesson of 50 minutes or 55, I should dedicate the last 5 minutes to summarize what I've been saying in English, in French, or in French, in English, depending on the situation. Then, away from that, the Inspectorate organizes frequently in-service capacity building, you know, seminars for teachers. And now we have so many WhatsApp platforms which we work on a daily basis to, you know, acquaint ourselves with the changing ways. Like now we talk more and more of the CBA, for instance, how we learn and then use that language to solve problems in a real life situation. So we lay emphasis on that. And even what we are doing now, I already thank you for opening your doors. This is part of it. When you go to our other sister radio or TV stations, the other colleagues are there. I don't want to name anyone here because it will be undue, you know, advert. I don't want to name anyone here. So all through this week, the inspectors are on the field working, and seriously. Then during this week, we lay emphasis on a lot of activities that promote bilingualism.
What are some of those activities?
So many. There are sketches, there are songs, there are like dramas, there are poems, there are, you know, imitation of certain things. Let's say I come here, I need a service, you can't render me the service out of ignorance. Out of ignorance. Just because you don't understand what, not that you don't want to, because you don't understand what I'm saying in the language which you don't master better. So all of that, amongst many other things which the Inspectorate does, go a long way to enhance the teaching and learning of French.
In Cameroon.
In Cameroon, of course.
In the second question, are there ways to improve the practice of bilingualism in Cameroon? Mangavinashus, if you think that bilingualism is not practical in Cameroon, therefore, what are some of the ways that we could improve the practice?
Vanessa, permit me say that in the education sector, you really see, like Mr. Bacham was explaining, those are efforts that we have. But Cameroon is not limited only to within the educational sector. We are not saying the educational sector in Cameroon is bilingual. We are saying Cameroon is bilingual, which means every sector of our education, of our national life, was supposed to reflect this bilingual aspect, this bilingual, quality, bilingualism that we have. There is a commission in this country called Commission in charge of promotion of bilingualism and multiculturalism. Yes, that commission, I would rather think that that commission should instead fall under the Ministry of Secondary Education, because instead it is the Ministry of Secondary Education promoting bilingualism, and I'm not getting it. Because if we are talking of bilingual schools, I don't know whether there are bilingual offices, because you still go to offices here, like Mr. Bacham was saying, and somebody is unable to render services to you, not because he was ill-intentioned, but because of language barrier. The language is, I am not speaking my Lamso, I'm speaking English, or somebody speaking French to me, and because I cannot understand French, I cannot serve the person, whereas I am paid to serve Cameroonians. And the other question I ask is, if bilingualism is only within educational sector, how do we expect to post civil servant? Imagine that I am a civil servant here, and I can't understand French, and I'm posted in Mora, in the Far North region. How would I work? I'm posted in Yokaduma, I'm posted in Dikinimiki, in the south. How will I work? Because there I'm confronted with Cameroonians who are of French expression. I should be able, like a civil servant, that's why I want to say, let us move away from the educational sector to other sectors. DBS should be bilingual. The Ministry of Commerce and Trade should be bilingual. The Ministry of Post and Telecommunication should be bilingual. Every other sector of public life should be bilingual, because it is from this sector of public life that Cameroonians from all backgrounds, anywhere in Cameroon that you go to, you will see an Anglophone, you will see a Francophone, most of it. And if this Francophone comes up now, and you tell him that, sorry my brother, I cannot understand, can you, you need to call another colleague to come and listen to what somebody is saying. Do they pay that colleague more than you? Would they pay your salary? Would your salary go to that colleague for carrying out your duty? You are paid to serve Cameroonians. So I think that something that we need to do is the ministry or the commission, they call it the Commission of Multiculturalism and Bilingualism, the promotion of bilingualism. They should take this fight like the educational sector is doing. They should also go out. We should not only wait for 1 week. They should also go out. Let all the sectors of life, public life, be bilingual. You still move in Douala here and you have signboards that are only in French. How do I don't even know how to read French, and then I want to go to this ministry and it is in French. How would I know what to do? And I still go there and I'm talking to somebody and he says, s'il vous plaît, je ne comprends pas ce que vous dites. How do you expect me to go ahead? And once they say je ne comprends pas ce que vous dites, I'm lost. I cannot even figure to even speak in French. Okay. So I think that we should take the fight. We should take the fight. Let it go beyond the educational sphere. We know that most of these civil, not most, all of these civil servants pass through schools. But then some of them pass through schools and schools do not pass through them. That is why they graduate and they cannot even speak French, they cannot even speak English.
That is your point of view, Manga Venatius. Thank you very much for it. Give your note. So what are some of the ways that we could improve the practice of bilingualism?
Actually, the ways are already there. What we need now is just for Cameroonians to make a conscious effort and then exploit them. Come to think of it, in all regional headquarters, there is a pilot linguistic center. I mean all. Owned by the state, where people can subscribe according to their timetables for those who either run away from the language, the other language like Venatius, alongside some other private language centers which still serve the same purpose. So it just needs, with a conscious effort, a bit of a willpower, and then a small token to do it. It's just that we are in charge of the promotion of the language. Other government policies do not depend on us. So we cannot be for the promotion of the language and then choose who should be where or who should not be where, for instance, because as he is saying, it is not like they put somebody somewhere, you refuse, to function in the other language. To me, it's lack of willpower, because even if for one reason or the other you are limited, there are ways of improving on your language skills. But somebody who decides to remain just where he is absolute lack of willpower. And something needs to be done. Maybe they remove him from there. Maybe they send him to where he can serve better in one language, and so on and so forth. But as long as it is especially a public office or something meant for public consumption, while conceiving it, or you should take into consideration that this is something that is meant for anybody who can speak English or French.
Mr. Gideon, so tell us, what are the major innovations of this year's celebration, because it's specific, the coronavirus pandemic?
Thank you very much. I'll just talk about the innovations alongside the activities, because those innovations fit into the activities. Yesterday, for instance, was the launching, and this is how it is organized. We have our colleagues of the basic and we of the secondary. If secondary launched last year, then basic closed. If secondary is launching this year, if basic is launching this year, secondary will close. So the innovation, the first one is that, they decentralized the launching. It was launched in all the subdivisions of Free, for instance. Your humble servant talking, I represented, the delegation of secondary education at the center in Génie Militaire. So it was basic launching, and they decided to decentralize it. In each subdivision, there was a launching center, contrary to what we used to have everybody converge in one center. A similar thing will happen on Friday during the closing, which will be spearheaded by us of the secondary.
This Friday, the 5th of February.
Yes, that's the main day of the celebration. We have the week as a whole, but the main day is Friday. It will be a similar thing. All the regional pedagogic inspectors will be sent to the field to take part. It never used to happen like that in the past. Somebody will go to Sanaga Maritime, some will go to Mungo North, another one Mungo South, another one in Kam, and then some other ones will remain here in Douala, where the main closing center will be Lycée d'Aquano. So those are some of the innovations. And then this year, a major one again is that we insisted that all schools, should have banners, at least 2 banners, not just, small posters like this one, on A4 format, banners in their schools for the team.
All right, for the team.
For the team.
All right.
Then, and all the activities, should be specific and innovative in one way or the other.
Bacham Gideon, the Regional Pedagogic Inspector in charge of bilingualism, thank you very much for coming. It has been a pleasure.
The pleasure is mine, Vanessa, and thank you once more. I'll carry back your
happy bilingualism
hospitality.
Week.
Thank you. Hospitality.
Happy bilingualism week.
Thank you, Vanessa, and same to you, because we all need to be bilingual.
We all need to be bilingual, mesdames et messieurs. À cet effet, nous mettons un terme sur cette édition de Viewpoint sur DBS Television. Prenez le rendez-vous pour demain et nous serons là. Merci beaucoup et bonne nuit.